Hey everyone, hope you guys are enjoying Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak in whichever platform you're choosing to play it on. And today I wanted to go over some really exciting news, and that is the fact that Capcom seems to be really revving up to provide us with new details at Tokyo Game Show regarding the next mainline game. This is something that has been rumored, of course, for quite a while. That leads up pretty much to the beginning of this year in 2023, where Ryoso Sugimoto gave a little bit of a quote, like basically look forward to Tokyo Game Show later this year, which is of course happening in September, because we're going to be talking about more Monster Hunter news. Now this time around, the information that we have comes to us directly from the latest Capcom recently held 44th general meetings with their shareholders, where they essentially are asked questions by different shareholders all across the world, and essentially Capcom is forced to provide an answer one way or another, because shareholders are the ones that really hold all the cards. The developers are, they might want to be able to do a game, but the game has to be profitable. And the finance people for any sort of publisher have to make the decisions, and those decisions usually come from feedback that they get from shareholders. I know a lot of people think that players get to decide what games get to be made first or next, but of course, shareholders also have a say in everything. To simply put it bluntly, they are the ones cutting the early checks before those rewards come in as game sales begin to trickle out. So essentially they asked three separate questions, so we're going to take them all in stride because they are about different things, specifically Monster Hunter related, but the last one specifically points to the main thing that we want to talk about in this video. First and foremost, one of the questions was, what are your future plans on expanding Monster Hunter, Towarare no Paruna, Sengoku Basara, and the Onimusha series? So it's a relatively vague questions that they ask usually, and I'm going to be leaving a link in the description below for this. All of the questions that they ask, not all of them are about Monster Hunter, but of course usually they start out with relatively vague questions. So simply Capcom's response was to this specific shareholder, we are carrying discussions regarding the future expansions on these titles so they can be enjoyed by a wider audience. So essentially a nothing burger here. There's really nothing that they said there, but of course that's to be expected. The second question is a bit more specific, and it talks about Monster Hunter Now, which of course is set to release in September. This is the mobile game that is currently in the second closed beta as of right now. I've put out a couple of videos already talking about it, and more things are going to be revealed to the public hopefully in the next trailer, because the second beta is really starting to showcase what this game is going to be about. The question simply says, what are your expectations of Monster Hunter Now? And they basically say it very clearly. Rather than revenue contributions, aka microtransactions, we expect this title to enhance awareness of the Monster Hunter brand on a global basis. Now, of course, this is a perfectly structured PR response, but if it does remind you of something, it should remind you of what Nintendo used to say regarding their mobile, them delving deeper into the mobile aspect of things. Remember when Mario Run came out, when they were talking about making that Zelda mobile game, which apparently never came out, when they were talking about doing Pikmin Bloom, that Fire Emblem game that's still live for some weird reason, a couple of other mobile games that they did as well. They would talk about them expanding not just necessarily the IP that the game was going to be, representing, but also knowledge of Nintendo to a brand new audience on mobile devices. And this is exactly what Capcom seems to be wanting to do with Monster Hunter Now. They're not necessarily interested, and I'll take them at face value because they have been doing a relatively good job as of late. They're not necessarily interested in emptying your pockets with endless microtransactions and pay-to-win mechanics with Monster Hunter Now, but instead letting people know that Monster Hunter can be more than just what you're used to seeing, what you're used to enjoying. More importantly, and this is something that I know a lot of old traditional gamers hate to hear, mobile gaming is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. It's just gonna continually grow exponentially because there's more people who have phones than there are people who have consoles. I know everyone memes. I guess it was the Diablo developer or something, or something. Whatever the game of them that was memed. Like, do you guys have phones? I guess they were talking about Diablo or something along those lines. I don't quite remember, but it is true. There are more phones out there than there are ever going to be consoles. So at the end of the day, catering to that audience to some degree does make some sense. It might have been Elder Scrolls or something along those lines, but at the end of the day, they're not necessarily too wrong. Whether you want to dove with that or not, that's entirely up to you, but developers are surely keen on what the mobile audiences are all about. Now, the last question is the big one, and this is the one that essentially they talk about once again, Tokyo Game Show being the next place you should be able to expect news for Monster Hunter. The question simply reads, next year, and they're talking about, of course, 2024, is the 20th anniversary of the Monster Hunter series. Remember that Ryosu Sugimoto opened his original statement back in January talking about the fact that next year is the big Monster Hunter anniversary, and they certainly want to start celebrating sooner than expected. That was the original quote that he provided. So they say, events that brought together the game developers and fans were not held during the COVID-19 pandemic. Do you have plans to bring back such events? Now, this question specifically is asking about physical events that they had in Japan. They recently had, I believe, they started to do the Universal Studios VR experiences that they had been doing previously to the pandemic starting. They've also started to do, I believe, like restaurants that are Monster Hunter themed and stuff like that, which all of that went on, hiatus. Pretty much it just went away as the pandemic was pretty much raging. Now that it's starting to calm down, it's basically going away. Capcom is starting to invest into those live events, and that is what this question originally is asking. However, Capcom's response is more detailed. They say, we are having positive discussions internally about restarting events following the decline during the pandemic. We look to create opportunities to interact with the fans, including scheduled participation in Tokyo Game Show 2023, which is planned to be held in September of this year. So not only are they saying, yes, indeed, we're going to have physical events, we're planning more things that have been put on, hiatus for the pandemic, but we're also looking to create opportunities and to interact with the fans, starting with Tokyo Game Show 2023, which once again lines up with everything Ryosu Sugimoto said, starting with Monster Hunter. More and massive details should be expected. Capcom will be hosting their own Capcom Showcase presentation. That is something that we have known for a little bit now, maybe a couple of weeks. I didn't make a video on that only because they didn't necessarily say like what franchises they're going to be talking about, but we do know they're going to have a Capcom Showcase of some type, and it wouldn't necessarily surprise me if they end up having a general vague just Monster Hunter Showcase. They just end up having some sort of vague showcase, and in that we end up seeing Monster Hunter 6, Monster Hunter World 2, Monster Hunter Paradise, whatever the name ends up being. I know I love to say that only because I know some people in the comments are always mad that they don't either like World 2 or they don't like Paradise because they think it's fake because of some old Discord leak, which turned out to be wrong. But there's actually different leaks that mention why Paradise is actually a good moniker name. So at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what they call it. The next mainline, Monster Hunter Generation 6, at the end of the day, will be an exciting title. And once again, in September, we will be getting news on this sooner rather than later. So that's about all the information that I have for you guys today. I'm going to be leaving a link in the description below once again for the original 44th Ordinary General Meetings with the shareholders that Capcom posted in their official website. So these are all official sources. This is not hearsay or rumors or clickbait like some people accuse me of, but at the end of the day, their own very words that more information is coming in September. If you're brand new to my channel though, be sure to leave a like and subscribe, hit the bell to receive notifications when the videos go up, and as always, thank you so much for watching. See ya.